Year's Eve 2022 in Cohasset, a wealthy Massachusetts community. Anna Walsh, a successful executive, toasted the new year with her husband and a friend. The outward appearance was one of privilege and happiness, but the reality was darker. The husband had a history of fraud, criminal activity, and psychological issues. Just hours after midnight, at 4:55 a.m. on New Year's Day, a search was entered into a family iPad. How long before a body starts to smell? This single search was the first line of a chilling digital script. It marked the start of a multi-day operation to erase every trace of Anna Walsh. The central question for investigators wasn't whether a crime happened, but how the person responsible thought they could get away with Googling a step-by-step blueprint for murder. Welcome back to Case File Chronicle. Anna Walsh was a success story. A Serbian native, she earned degrees from Belgrade and Cornell, establishing herself as a regional general manager in the competitive DC real estate market. She was the main financial provider for her family, including her 3 young sons. Her husband, who enjoyed the pretense of wealth and status, was a different case. Despite attending schools like Harvard, the suspect was a career criminal. Court records detail his involvement in an elaborate art fraud scheme where he sold fake Andy Warhol paintings that had been stolen. At the time of Anna's disappearance, he was awaiting sentencing for those federal crimes and was restricted to home confinement. This history of fraud was not new. Court documents and family statements reveal the suspect was estranged from his own father after allegedly stealing nearly $1 million and attempting to forge his late father's will to claim an inheritance. Family friends formally diagnosed him as a sociopath who was prone to anger and physical violence. In fact, years before they married, Anna herself had reported him to police for threatening to kill her and her friends, though she later withdrew the complaint. The suspect's dependence on Anna's income and her growing independence, including pulling out cash from her assets and preparing to move to DC, created a crisis of control. On December 27th, days before the new year, a search was made on a family device. What's the best state for divorce for a man? The suspect didn't want a divorce, he wanted her wealth. Anna had nearly $3 million in life insurance where the suspect was the sole beneficiary. Anna was last seen in the early hours of January 1, 2023. When her DC employer reported her missing days later, not her husband, police went to the home. The suspect told officers Anna had left around 6:00 a.m. for an emergency flight to DC. This was a lie. The investigation quickly established that Anna had taken no rideshare, booked no flight, and her phone was still pinging at the Cohasset home until January 2nd. The suspect then provided police with an elaborate alibi for his own whereabouts on New Year's Day. He claimed to have left the house without his phone, gotten lost, and gone to run errands for his mother at stores like Whole Foods and CVS. But police used phone data and store surveillance footage to prove his story was entirely fabricated. The suspect was not at Whole Foods or CVS. He was, however, seen elsewhere, meticulously planning a cover-up. The suspect used a family iPad to chart his actions. The searches began at 4:55 a.m. on New Year's Day and continued throughout the morning and the next day. Early hours, Jan 1st. How to stop a body from decomposing. 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. Can you throw away body parts? And dismemberment and the best ways to dispose of a body. Later, Jan 1st. How long for someone to be missing to inherit? How to clean blood from wooden floor, and luminol to detect blood. Jan 2nd. Hacksaw best tool to dismember. Can you be charged with murder without a body? And can you identify a body with broken teeth? This digital blueprint directly informed his next actions. On January the 2nd, the suspect drove to a Home Depot in Rockland and was captured on surveillance video wearing a face mask and rubber gloves, purchasing $450 worth of cleaning supplies with cash. His cart was loaded with mops, tarps, buckets, a Tyvek suit, goggles, baking soda, and a hatchet. Over the next 2 days, the suspect was tracked via his cell phone data, making trips to apartment complex dumpsters across multiple towns. Surveillance footage captured him hoisting heavy garbage bags into the bins, disposing of what prosecutors believe was Anna's dismembered body. The bags were transported to incinerators, reflecting a calculated attempt to erase the evidence permanently. The critical break came when police secured and searched dumpsters near the suspect's mother's complex, trash that had not yet gone to the incinerator. Inside, they found 10 trash bags filled with bloody evidence. The recovery was damning. Blood-soaked towels, a hacksaw, a hatchet, a portion of a rug, a dress, a black jacket, and Anna Walsh's vaccination card. Forensic analysis confirmed the blood matched Anna Walsh's DNA. Crucially, a Tyvek suit recovered from the trash contained the DNA of both Anna and her husband. The combination of the search history, the physical evidence, and the extensive lies was overwhelming. The suspect, Brian Walsh, was arrested on January 18, 2023, and later charged with first-degree murder, even without the recovery of Anna's body. The case was immediately engulfed in legal controversy. The defense fought fiercely to have the incriminating Google searches thrown out, arguing that investigators accessed the data before obtaining a proper warrant. Furthermore, the defense seized upon the controversy surrounding the lead investigator, a state trooper who had been disciplined for misconduct in another high-profile Massachusetts murder case. The defense argued this systemic bias and corruption tainted the evidence gathered against Walsh. Despite these efforts, a judge ultimately ruled that the Google searches would be admissible as evidence, citing the compelling and immediate need for investigators to act on information that suggested a body had been illegally disposed of. Facing a mountain of evidence, Brian Walsh pleaded guilty to the murder and dismemberment of his wife. The man who had been a con artist his entire life could not lie his way out of the digital blueprint he had created. He was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Anna Walsh's body has never been found. Her life was tragically stolen by a man whose jealousy, financial desperation, and need for control drove him to commit an act of unimaginable cruelty. Anna's remains are still missing. How much does the lack of a body matter when the murderer's own words, found on his child's iPad, detail every step of the crime?